Well, alright, welcome back to As It Should Be. Paul Berlino here, and, well, it's Halloween, right? Or roundabout. I'm not sure if it's Halloween today, because I'm not sure exactly which day I'm putting it up, and I'm also not sure exactly which day you're watching this. But it's Halloween week, and, well, I decided to do a video where I rank my top 20 songs of the great David Bowie. Yeah, David Bowie songs, my top 20. I'm not going to rank the albums, I'm going to rank my top 20 songs. Okay? Well, and you know, I have a thing going on Saturday where I'm going to have to be dressing in this outfit with Aladdin Sane makeup. Somebody who can do a way better job than I can will be doing my makeup on Saturday. Today, this is what you get. All right, I couldn't, you know, it's a little rough, but I did the best I could do. I didn't have the best makeup on hand to do this with, but, alright, whatever. Let's get to ranking the albums, or ranking the songs, rather. Let's get to ranking the songs. Here we go. Okay, so coming in at number 20 is Candidate. But it's not Candidate from Diamond Dogs. Yeah, it's the demo version of Candidate, which he wrote and recorded when he was working on the 1984 stage show that he was going to be doing. It was going to be like a big musical, and he was writing and recording demos for that, and unfortunately never saw the light of day. This version of Candidate is from the demos for that, and it was included as a bonus track on the Ryko disc, the 1990 Ryko disc edition of Diamond Dogs. And I actually prefer this version to the one on the album, because the one on the album, I feel like it's just sort of this, I don't know, I feel like this version is more of a song. The one on the album kind of, you know, weaves in and out with Sweet Thing, and it's just, it doesn't have as much form. And I like the nice tight pop track form of this demo. That's just more my steez, man. Yeah, but yeah, so that's what I got coming in at number 20, the alternate demo version of Candidate. Okay, so coming in at number 19 is the Gene Genie. Yeah, the Gene Genie from 1973's Aladdin Sane album. And actually, I don't remember offhand. Was that a single? I just know that I heard it on the radio a lot. And, you know, it's a classic track. It's Bowie kind of doing a 60s garage thing, you know. And he's right. It's kind of in the style of like the Yardbirds and that kind of thing. And the song is supposedly about an Iggy Pop type character. Bowie claimed that it wasn't actually about Iggy himself, but an Iggy-type character. Now, I don't know if he was just saying that because he knew Iggy and, you know, didn't want to say it was actually about him, but, yeah, well, that's what Bowie said. And, well, we're just going to have to take his word for it, aren't we? Yeah. All right, there we go. The Gene Genie. All right, so coming in at number 18 is Fashion. Yeah, this comes off of 1980's Scary Monsters album, and well, how old was I around that time? I was around 10, 11 when that album came out, and I wasn't really quite a Bowie fan, because in the 70s and in the early 80s, Bowie was a little too weird for me. You know, I was just a kid, and it was going a little over my head at that time. And I remember in those sort of pre-MTV days, I would see the video quite a lot for Fashion, and also the video for DJ, and they would get played on those, like, you know, late night, midnight video shows, and I didn't quite, I understood that it was a little too cool for me. You know what I mean? I thought, you know, this is like Big Brother stuff. This is older brother stuff. This is too sophisticated for the likes of little 10-year-old me. And so it took me quite a while to get into it. And then when it got a little bit later, I kind of didn't like it because it was just kind of too dancey. And I didn't really like the dancey stuff so much. But now I really recognize it for the great track it is. It's really grown on me. And yeah, you know. Beep, beep, Fashion. Okay, so coming in at number 17 is Kooks. Yeah, Kooks from 1971's Hunky Dory. What a great track this is. Now, this is a song that Bowie wrote about his son, Duncan Jones. Now, I remember as a kid, my Aunt Vivian telling me that David Bowie's son was named Zoe Bowie, and thinking that was the weirdest thing I'd ever heard of. Like, how could that even be? How could somebody get through life with the name Zoe Bowie? And, well, yeah, indeed, he did actually go by the name Zoe Bowie until he was around 13, and he decided he wanted to be named Joey. And I don't know if it was because once he became a teenager, he decided he didn't want to have a weird name, he wanted to fit in. But it was really during his teenage years that he was Joey, and then when he was 18, he decided to go with his birth name, Duncan Jones. Now, Bowie wrote this song when he got word that his son Duncan had been born. And he wrote it kind of in this style. It's kind of in the style, somewhat, a Neil Youngish style, because he was listening to a Neil Young album when he heard the news that his son was born. So it's like a tribute to his son, tribute to Neil Young for kind of being there at such a special moment. Yeah, and it's a great, great song. Kooks. Okay, so coming in at number 16 is another song from Hunky Dory, Oh You Pretty Things. Yeah, now this is the second track on the album. And now Bowie initially wrote this song, I think kind of thinking, wanting to kind of submit it. He was still kind of at this point not quite an established artist, so he was still writing with the idea of other people doing his songs and, you know, getting sort of placements so he could just get publishing money from having hits with other artists' renditions, right? So Peter Noone got this track before Bowie did it, and Peter Noone put it out as a single in the UK, and it became a big hit. Now, Bowie then, only a couple months later, recorded it himself for Hunky Dory, and, well, I mean, come on. It's all about Bowie's version. I mean, you know, love you, Peter Noone. You know, he's got some good pop tracks. He even has a really, really great recent track, but come on, man. Oh You Pretty Things by Bowie. You can't top Bowie's version. Yeah. So there you go. Oh You Pretty Things. Okay, so coming in at number 15 is Where Are We Now? Yeah, Where Are We Now? Now this is from 2013's The Next Day album, okay? Now this is his second to last album, the penultimate Bowie album. Now I remember distinctly when this hit, of course because it wasn't that long ago, but see, Bowie had been gone for a while. We hadn't heard word one from Bowie in like 10 years, right? And the night it dropped, I was sitting in my room, on my bed, with my computer on my lap, and out of nowhere, I thought about Bowie. And I thought, you know, he's been so quiet for so long. I mean, I remember around 2011, there was word like, oh, he's going to do a one last greatest hits tour, and that's going to be his last tour, and that's that. And then it just kind of never happened, and I never heard anything else about it. And then all these years passed, and I don't hear about him. Well, a couple of years passed, and I'm sitting there in my room thinking, what's going on with Bowie? And I just had this overwhelming thought of like, is Bowie sick? Is Bowie about to die? I swear I thought this, and I got online, and I just thought, you know what? I'm going to look it up. Somebody somewhere knows something about what's going on with Bowie. And I got on Google and started searching about, and boom, he had just dropped this song from his upcoming new album. And I was like, holy shit! I was just completely amazed, and I listened to the track, and it was just such an it was, you know, it's just like this sort of dark and moody, beautiful track, and it was an emotional experience hearing this song for the first time, and it's just, I'll always love it. I'll always love this track. This is one of my favorite Bowie tracks. I mean, you're going to see, I don't really have any later Bowie tracks on this list, but this one, man, Where Are We Now? It will always get me right here, this song, because then, of course, as we find not too long later, he was in fact sick, and we lost him. So, yeah, this song will always kind of mean a lot to me. Where Are We Now? Okay, so coming in at number 14 is a track that is way too low on the list. Way too low. You guys are going to crucify me for putting this track this low on the list. Well, Ziggy Stardust. Yes, the title track from the great Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spider from Mars. Yeah. Well, obviously this is one of Bowie's greatest tracks, and but, you know, there's just so many. I guess really what it is there's just so many that I like more. Part of it, of course, is that I've heard so much of it. We've all heard it on the radio a million times, and I'm a little tired of it, but I couldn't help but put it on the list because really this is one of the top Bowie tracks of all time. I mean, which nobody can deny. And yeah, I mean, what else is there to say about this? You know the song, I know the song, we all know the song. I mean, Ziggy Stardust. What are you going to do? Let me know where you would put this song on your list in the comments, because I bet you would put it higher. As it should be. Okay, so coming in at number 13 is Starman. Yeah, Starman, also from the Ziggy Stardust album. Now, this is actually the song that made Bowie a star. as most people probably know, certainly most Bowie fans know, Bowie performed this song on Top of the Pops. Bowie performed this song on Top of the Pops, and it really, in the UK, and it really ended up being his Beatles on Ed Sullivan moment. So many people were watching, so many future stars, and yeah, I mean, this was the moment that Bowie became a star. And, of course, there's that classic moment where he points at the camera. And as they say, that was actually, you could pinpoint it to that exact second that Bowie became a sstar. Yeah, and so Bowie has his own, like I said, his own Beatles on Ed Sullivan moment, and this is it. Starman. Great, great, great track. Okay, so coming in at number 12 is Bombers. Yeah, Bombers is a track, it's actually an outtake. It's a hunky-dory outtake. This track Bombers was supposed to be the opening track on side 2, and it was until pretty late in the game when Bowie pulled it in favor of Feel Your Heart. Okay? And I personally prefer Bombers. I really actually wish that Bombers had been the opening song on side 2 of Hunky Dory. For me, Hunky Dory is arguably the best Bowie album. Arguably, and honestly, the Bombers being on the album would have made it even better. And might even would make it the best, might even would, I can't speak. It perhaps would even make it the finest Bowie album. Now, this track, of course, saw the light of day in 1990 as a bonus track on the Rykodisc edition of Hunky Dory, and that's where I first heard it. Yeah, and it's always been a favorite of mine, and like a little deep sort of like, yeah, this one. And again, I'm just so shocked that it just got relegated to a bonus track that didn't come out till 1990. What are you gonna do? Bombers. Okay, so coming in at number 11 is The Supermen. Yeah, The Supermen. But it's not the version from Man Who Sold the World. This is actually the alternate version that Bowie recorded later during the Ziggy sessions. Yeah, he actually re-recorded the song during the Ziggy sessions and didn't put it out. And I like this version so much better. Way, way, way better. I mean, the one from Man Who Sold the World wouldn't make my list. This version, absolutely. And this is another one of those tracks that didn't see the light of day until 1990, those Rykodisc bonus tracks. And boy, those for some reason, I don't know what the reason is why those went out of print and no later editions or later issues of these albums included those bonus tracks. So those bonus tracks are kind of rare, you know what I mean? Because getting those discs now, they're kind of tough to get and they're pricey. And you go to Spotify or whatever, the Spotify editions of those albums don't have those bonus tracks. So you have to actually have the Rykodisc versions from 1990 to have these tracks, which is too bad because they're really these are great tracks and they should be on the albums. Yeah. Anyway, The Supermen. Okay, so coming to number 10 is Time. Yeah, Time is the first track on side 2 of Aladdin Sane. Now, Bowie had originally written this song in 1971 with totally different lyrics under the name We Should Be On By Now. And, well, he ended up rewriting the lyrics later on after the death of the New York Dolls original drummer, Billy Murcia. And, well, that became the version of the song that's on Aladdin Sane. And, man, that's a little bit of a dark horse of a track, you know what I mean? Like that's such a good one. I mean, just the section, the la 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 la, that part alone is worth the price of admission. And so, yeah, therefore it is on my list, and it is in my top 10. Time. Okay, so coming at number 9 is Moon Age Daydream from the Ziggy Stardust album. Yeah, ooh, what a track this is. Now, Bowie actually had recorded a version of this song as well as Hang On To Yourself and released them as a single under the name Arnold Corns. Yeah, and this was just a little ahead of the Ziggy album. Now, before the Ziggy album came out, Bowie really hadn't made it yet. He hadn't hit yet. He hadn't had his breakthrough. And he was still trying anything and everything he could to make it. And, well, so Arnold Corns was just another one of his little attempts to get everybody's attention that didn't quite work. But, of course, obviously the song did, in fact, work once he put it on Ziggy in the superior version, really. It's on the album. The Arnold Corns version really isn't nearly as good. Same with Hang On To Yourself. But, man, the version that's on the Ziggy album, Jesus fucking Christ, it kicks arse. Moon Age Daydream. Okay, so coming to number 8 is Young Americans. Yeah, the title track from his 1975 album. Man, what a track this is, and what an album that is. Now, this was Bowie going into an entirely new direction, you know, more of an R&B and soul direction. Now, you know, of course, Bowie had broken through in 72 with Ziggy Stardust, but that was kind of like a, you know, that was him doing the glam thing, and in the US, even though he technically had broken through, it still was a little bit of a fringe thing. With this album, with Fame, and with this song, Young Americans, these two singles, he kind of had a second and kind of greater breakthrough, really, in the US. I mean, he reached a far wider audience when this record came out. I mean, I remember as a kid hearing Fame on the radio all the time. I didn't know who it was. You know, I was 5. I didn't know who Bowie was, but I knew this song. And that's the point. That's the level he had reached at that point, where some 5-year-old kid who didn't know the name David Bowie knew the song Fame, Young Americans, David Sanborn on sax, and I'm a sucker for a good, you know, sax, especially on an R&B flavor track or a mid-70s, a nice warm mid-70s track. Ooh, yeah, Young Americans. Woo. Okay, so coming in number 7 is Aladdin Sane. Yes, the title track from 1973's Aladdin Sane. Man, this is my favorite track on that album by far, and, well, obviously one of my very favorite Bowie tracks of all time. Now, this is a track about, or this is a song about sort of the debaucherous escapades of guys who are about to be shipped off to war, you know, in World War I, World War II, and yeah, and it's just this, you know, the kind of the tinkling piano and just like the jazzy, it's just, yeah, it's a gorgeous track, and it's just always been a favorite of mine, and honestly, it's too low on the list, but there's just so many great Bowie songs that are even higher. So what are you gonna do? Aladdin Sane. Damn beautiful track. Thank you. Okay, so number 6 brings us to another one of those songs that I used to hear on the radio a lot as a kid, but at that time didn't know the name that was attached to it. It was just a song that I heard a lot, and that's Changes. Yeah, Changes, the opening track on Hunky Dory. Now, this came out as a single in January 1972, and really it actually flopped, as did, really, the Hunky Dory album initially. It wasn't until after Ziggy came out, of course, that this really actually became a radio hit, and that's when we all started hearing it all the time, and that's when people started buying the albums, you know, really. That's when people started buying Hunky Dory, and people started buying the Changes single if it was still around. And, yeah, and Bowie himself plays the sax on that. Yeah, that's right. That's Bowie making with some sort of early pre-yacht rock there. Can't go wrong. Changes. Okay, so coming to number 5 is Queen Bitch. Queen Bitch from Hunky Dory. Oh man, this is, I mean, what a fucking Bowie track this is. Now, Bowie had started writing the songs for Hunky Dory after he'd been on his first trip to the U.S. And the U.S. had made such an impression on him that it really kind of changed the way he wrote. And a lot of the stuff that he was writing, you know, subject matter-wise for the album, was based on his new love of the U.S. You know, he wrote a lot of songs that were tributes to some of his U.S. heroes and icons, like, you know, of course, there's the song Andy Warhol, there's a song for Bob Dylan, and then there's this song, Queen Bitch, which is, of course, in tribute to Lou Reed, which he acknowledges right on the back cover of the album. And man, this is like probably the toughest sounding acoustic track that has ever been put to tape, right? I mean, it's so badass. I mean, it's you know, full band, there's drums, bass, and everything, but it's just, it isn't an electric guitar song. It's just an acoustic guitar standing up there and just sounding just so tough, so kick ass. Queen Bitch, Queen Bitch. Okay, so coming in at number 4 is Win. Yeah, Win from the Young Americans album. I love this track so much, and this is a sort of a later discovery for me. Now, there was a copy of the Young Americans album in the apartment when I was a kid. I don't think it belonged to my mom. It belonged to some friend of hers, I think. She had a bunch of records that we just sort of had for a while, probably babysitting them for a friend who was in a transient sort of part of their life, I guess. But I just remember that there was like a Diamond Dogs, copy of Diamond Dogs there, and there was Young Americans. Now, I wasn't really into that stuff at that time. I just remember the records being in the house. So I didn't hear this track back then. Now, this is a song that I really didn't get hip to, really, until I was in my 20s, maybe even early 30s. But man, it's so beautiful. And, I mean, it just has that great sort of, reverb, sort of, just the atmosphere of it with, the David Sanborn sax, of course. Now, this song, When, along with Fascination, these two were late additions to the Young Americans album, because initially he'd recorded a version of the album that was called the Gouster, the Gooster, the Juister, I don't know how you pronounce that. Somebody type it out for me phonetically down in the comments. The Gouster, and, then kind of a little late in the game, he brought these two tracks in, and then, kind of went on his way, and Tony Visconti went and he finished mixing the record, or he thought he was finished, and then Bowie did a little session with John Lennon, where they co-wrote and recorded Fame, and a cover of Across the Universe, and then Bowie says, well, actually, we need to dump a couple more tracks, because we're putting these on, and Tony Visconti's like, Jesus Christ, okay, what's going on here? But either way, there you go, that's Young Americans, and When, I love Young Americans, the track, as I already talked about, but When? Whoa, come on, man, it comes in at my number 4. Okay, so coming in number 3 is Ashes to Ashes. Oh, man, Ashes to Ashes from Scary Monsters. Man, I remember so well when this was new, and this is a video, kind of like Fashion and DJ, that I would see on TV. Yeah, pretty much pre-MTV. I would see it on those pre-MTV shows, just like those videos. But it was so creepy. Like, I was a 10-year-old kid, so I just found it so unsettling and creepy. But I loved it. It was really just like, wow, I don't understand what's going on, but I want to. I want to know more about this. And then I remember my friends Saul and Caesar. When I was a kid, Saul and Caesar. Shout out to Saul and Caesar. Those of you who listen to my audio podcast know all about Saul and Caesar. Well, they, of course, had this record in their collection, and I used to stare at the cover. There was so much mystery. You had the drawing of Bowie dressed in the Ashes to Ashes outfit with makeup and stuff, and just behind it, poking out a little bit, you saw a little bit of an image of his arm and shoulder of a real photo of him in that outfit, and I was like, whoa, it was so mysterious and cool, and like I said, creepy to me. Always been a favorite of mine ever since it was new. And a couple years ago, maybe about 3 years ago, when the Bowie Is exhibit came to New York, I went with a friend, and we went all through that thing and stared at all the stuff in there. So many great things. All these outfits and just everything you can imagine, right? And you weren't supposed to take pictures. They were like, do not take pictures. You cannot take pictures. And there were people all over the place sort of watching and monitoring. I turned a corner. I came into this room and I turned a corner and looked up into this glass case and came face to face with the Ashes to Ashes outfit. And I just stood there looking at that thing, and I said, I don't give a fuck. I don't give a shit. I pulled my phone out. I am taking a picture of this. They can kick me out. I don't give a fuck. I am taking a picture of the Ashes to Ashes outfit. And I got that photo, and they didn't catch me. So, don't tell anyone. Oh, but anyway, Ashes to Ashes. Okay, so coming in number 2 is Life on Mars. Oh, man, what a track. And this song is high on your list too, no question about it. Man, Life on Mars. It almost should be number 1, except for my number 1. And you'll know what that is in a second. Now, Life on Mars is a song that Bowie wrote after he had a little experience where, okay, there's the song My Way, right? We all know the song My Way that was a big, huge classic hit for Frank Sinatra, right? Well, Bowie was commissioned initially to write the English lyrics for this, and he wrote a set of lyrics that I guess supposedly the people who were putting it together didn't like what he wrote, and they probably didn't think he was big enough of a star at the time. He wasn't enough of a name at the time for them to kind of be able to go, hey, look, this guy did this. So they kind of ended up reneging and going, yeah, Bowie, you know what? You're not doing this. And then they got Paul Anka, and he wrote My Way, and, well, the rest is history there. And that always kind of chapped old Bowie's hide, and that's why he wrote this song, kind of as almost like a parody of My Way. If you listen to it, it's a lot of the same chords. It's very, very similar musically. Entirely different set of lyrics, but yeah. And honestly, Life on Mars is 1,000 times the song that My Way is, in my opinion. Oh, man. It's yeah. I mean, Life on Mars. Huh. Okay, so coming in number 1, my number 1 all-time favorite Bowie track. Space Oddity. Come on, Space Oddity. I mean, a lot of you must have this at number 1 on your list, too. Let me know in the comments. Yeah, Space Oddity. So originally this song was written and recorded for what was going to be like a promo film called Love You Till Tuesday. And he recorded an earlier version that was never used, and he ended up shelving that, whatever. And then later on, when he was doing his second album, which was originally called David Bowie, and then in the US became Man of Words, Man of Music, and ultimately became called Space Oddity after Ziggy came out, and after he hit, then they reissued it as Ziggy Stardust. Well, that's a completely new recording of the song, and Gus Dudgeon and Paul Buckmaster worked on this track. Gus Dudgeon produced it, Paul Buckmaster did like the strings and everything, and it's actually that recording that is the reason why Elton John got Gus Dudgeon and Paul Buckmaster to work with him on his second album, his self-titled album, the one with Your Song and everything, and that was his breakthrough. Yeah, Elton John had heard Gus Dudgeon and Paul Buckmaster on Space Oddity, and he was like, okay, I want these guys. And that's the reason, really, why all of Elton John's great 70s albums sound the way they do, because he got Gus Dudgeon, because he heard him on Space Oddity. And that's it. Gus Dudgeon was basically the George Martin of Elton John throughout the 70s. So, I mean, we have so many things to thank Bowie for, so many things that he brought to us, but, I mean, Elton John's great 70s albums would not sound the way they sounded had it not been for Bowie. And who knows, I mean, maybe Elton wouldn't have even broken through if he didn't have this album sounding this particular way, because, you know, Your Song has a particular vibe to it that's Gus Dudgeon and Paul Buckmaster. So, yeah, and you know, and of course, that song was kind of considered a novelty in its day. I mean, Tony Visconti didn't produce it because he just thought of it as a novelty track. I wonder what he thinks of it now. Tony, what do you think of this track now that it's, you know, grown in stature a little bit over the years, hasn't it? But yeah, I mean, you know, it came out as a single, of course, in '69, and was a little bit of a thing in the UK. I don't think it was really particularly big in the US, but of course, like all his other pre-Ziggy singles, it kind of came back and became a thing retrospectively. And well, yeah, and it's my favorite. It's my very, very favorite Bowie track. I mean, it's Bowie's most beautiful track. Bowie has a lot of beautiful tracks, but this is Bowie's most gorgeous track. I mean, I remember right after Bowie died, being in the grocery store. I was in the grocery store, and it was very quiet, and this song was playing, and it was just like, I shed a tear. You know, a combination of Bowie being dead and just the beauty of the track. It just kind of all hit me at once, and my God, I will always love it. I will always love Space Oddity, and who wouldn't love it? You need to love it. Alright, so there you go. The Halloween edition of As It Should Be, ranking my top 20 Bowie tracks. Now, if you guys are digging the videos, if you guys are loving the videos, subscribe. If you like them even a little bit, subscribe. And if you subscribe, do click the little bell so you'll get the notifications. And, like videos and comment down below. Let me know what your favorite Bowie songs are. Give me your top 5, your top 10, your top 20, whatever. Tell me about the ones that I'm an idiot for not including. Like Heroes. What a great track. That should have been on my list. Suffragette City should have been on my list. So many tracks, really, that should have been on my list. But, I can only fit 20 songs on a 20-song list, so therefore I had to leave those songs out. So, there you go. Anyway, thank you, everybody, for watching the videos. And, I will see you next time.